Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining our district advisor meeting. Like we usually do, go ahead, put your name and where you're from into the chat for a record. All right, thanks for joining, everyone. All right, just catching you up on the news, what we've been working on. So with the advisor validation website, I believe this went out in the bulletin too. All of the reports are now up and running for 1920, and all of the errors that may have been not running, all that's been reactivated. Reports, that includes all of the career and tech ed reports, attendance reports under membership. All the course and grade reports are up and running. We added a few reports that were not there, but were still missing, that used to be in the NSSRS, like the course history report that shows you what courses you've taken over the last 4 years, offered at high schools. Also, the post-school survey and postgraduate activity reports are now available. Remember that you have to flip the year back when you use those. So right now, you want to flip back to 2018, 2019 to look at the post-school survey report. And that tells you who your 2019 graduates were that were concentrators. And that's who you would typically upload your postgraduate activities to. Then accordingly, your vendor should be uploading those postgraduate activities to the 2018-19 school year. That's the only 18-19 data that NDE is still going to collect at this point.
Yeah, I get it.
We are still having a developer on some changes to the actual website itself. We'll be going into testing soon. I hope before the next call to have these deployed into the system. There will be some new error codes, a bunch of those actually. I'll be adding those. So those will kind of roll out as I get them done probably. So I will announce those through the bulletin. So some of the other website updates we have are changes to student lookup ID to show some additional fields, some new fields in the demographic and SPED lookups, changing some of the lookups, how they work for 18-19 now that our 18-19 data is basically locked. A few reports we still need to work on. Migrant roster review, and which is based off of data that we get not from your SIS directly, but from another system. Also, that additional reports for that used to be part of the GCAD tool in NSSRS, the one that shows you like the original cohort and then the in, the out, and the current count. We also will be looking at adding a CRDC report to show you what CRDC data is coming up. Any questions or comments about advisor validation? All right, Perkins 5 stuff. So this should be going out in the bulletin soon. We've been working with our Katie Graham, who's our career and tech ed director, and kind of getting the system put together for Perkins 5. If you didn't know, right now you are technically under Perkins 4, the way we've been doing things for a number of years.
Okay.
But starting in 2020, 2021, that will be the first official year for Perkins 5 accountability. So that what that means is that the CTE program data in this school year is now officially optional. So that means where you are reporting concentrators and what cluster they're in and their technical school attainment, you don't have to report that to us. You can if you want. That doesn't include postgraduate activities. We haven't exactly worked out how this might transition to Perkins 5, but we do know that we will still collect postgraduate activity once we are under the new Perkins 5 system. The rest of the Perkins data would just come from other data that's already being uploaded by you. Another thing under Perkins 5, it's only concerned with concentrators. There's no longer the concept of participants. So that new system we just set up last year that generates participants from courses, that will not be running under Perkins 5. But we have a very similar system in under the new way of doing it. So if you haven't seen already, and some of this is already posted in our proposal out on the under Perkins 5, concentrators are defined as a high school student who has completed at least 2 intermediate or capstone courses in a single cluster. So it's a little different than the old system. The old system was just 3 of any courses under a cluster was the recommendation. So under this new system, though, since we're defining it specifically like this, NDE will actually be building the concentrator list for you. So it's really just based on the courses that you upload. And then some of these other course systems documents that we have, for example, the CTE course code to cluster crosswalk, which we've been using for that participant build. Now we will be using it for I'm referring to this link here. We'll be using that for the concentrator build under.
So Max, can you hear me?
Yep.
So let me just get this straight, because someone asked me from another district as well. This is Cheryl from Beatrice. We do not have to enter any program fact data for career education. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
So no concentrators, no anything for this year?
Nope. Just, I think post-school survey you will.
Right, and that's somewhere totally different. So, okay, great. I'm going to send that out to my people. They'll be so happy. Thank you.
Yep.
So Max,
out within a week. Yep.
This is Amy. So will districts still need to verify any information? It sounds like you're going to give reports back.
Definitely.
Okay. Because I know this is related to courses and whatnot. So they'll still have to kind of know who a concentrator is and who a participant is, or there
still will be reports that will show you who your concentrators are under the new system.
And if they don't get this right, will that affect any of their funding, or will somebody reach out to them if, like, hey, it looks like you offered this program track. Now it doesn't look like you offered this program track, or is the way they're doing this just so different that there'll kind of be a new set of rules?
We are treating it as a new set of rules, but it's not radically different from how it worked before. There's just slightly different indicators, slightly different rules. I could show you some of that here in a minute. But no, it's really not radically different. The only difference is that the biggest difference is that we decided you will not have to, we're just going to make everyone just submit course data to us, and we will go from there.
So they
Do
still
you
need to
know
get,
how happy that makes us? Just FYI.
yes, I would agree. But then districts still need to be knowledgeable of those, the pathways and things of that nature. And I assume the documentation that we have now that tells us that that's, for example, the marketing pathway, and here's the courses you need to take. Is that going to change or be updated at all?
Nope, so that is what I would call the programs of study. That's like
Yes,
this
that's
stuff.
the word I'm looking for.
And I do not expect programs of study, or these will continue to be used.
Correct. And those are linked to those course numbers that you're talking about, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the whole programs of study system, I believe, will still operate like normal under Perkins 5. And so if you're wondering about, and this is where we are looking to find those intermediate and capstone courses that will determine if a student is a concentrator under Perkins 5. So let's see, Anna was asking about technical skill. Yeah, the technical skill attainment is no longer a thing under Perkins 5.
And I want to say that we didn't know all of this at the beginning of the year when we set up this year's ODS. So
Yeah, otherwise we may have,
otherwise we would have gotten rid of it for this year, but. Okay, if they do choose to option to upload this, will it override what NDE has calculated?
no. It's perfectly fine if you have already or want to upload your concentrators this year. We will essentially keep the data separate. And also in the reports that are going to be posted, I'm kind of making sure that we're keeping Perkins 5 data and Perkins 5 reports totally separate from our existing Perkins 4 reports.
But if they upload it, will we use it for anything?
Not really, to my knowledge.
So it would probably be a waste of their time.
I don't know. I mean, and districts may have a reason to keep track of their own, what they're doing with career and tech ed this year. Just because there's no federal accountability for this school year, doesn't mean a district shouldn't be keeping track of what they're doing with career and tech ed.
So the reports that they upload, that we provide is our calculations, not information they're uploading.
From Perkins 5, you mean?
Yeah.
Although, I mean, it comes from the courses that districts
So
upload.
what they're uploading will not show in the report.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure what document you're talking about, Philip. But I would, if you want to see some of what the new Perkins state plan has, definitely go see this link.
He means this Google Doc, right?
Oh, yeah.
That you're.
Yeah, this is posted on our meetings tab here, like normal.
I got you. Okay, thank you for that.
So yeah, some of the other details about how that concentrator calculation works. A student can be listed as a concentrator in multiple clusters. That's really not a problem. We don't have to like pick one now. But I believe the federal Perkins accountability reporting actually looks at your data not by cluster, but by combining all concentrators across your clusters. So you may have a student who's a concentrator in 5 different clusters, but when we do the federal reporting, they basically just count as one concentrator. So then also we count courses from anywhere from 9th through 12th grade. We look at the full history of the student. So a student can become a concentrator at any grade level, doesn't have to be a 12th grader. If they become a concentrator early, they'll just keep being marked as a concentrator until they graduate. So I think it's a little bit simpler than what we had before. So I like it. So what's going on with the Perkins 5 system is that I believe at this time, districts, the career and tech ed people at districts are meant to be putting together a needs assessment, kind of like a proposal for what they are going to be doing with career and tech ed under Perkins. To help with that, we are just about to post the first report for it. So it'll be called like the Perkins 5 indicator report. And we'll post it on Advisor Validation here probably before the end of the week. And so what this report will be doing, because it'll actually go and pull data back all the way from 15-16. And so basically we're looking at your existing and old data using the Perkins 5 rule. So none of this data is official accountability data, but we wanted to give you something to look at in using the Perkins 5 rule so that you can kind of use that to project forward what clusters you would have concentrators in. It obviously should be pretty similar to your existing Perkins 4 concentrator reporting over the last couple of years. But yeah, like I said before, we keep it completely separate on our side. There's Perkins 4 data and Perkins 5 data. They are kept away from each other. So we'll, like I said, also mention that in the bulletin once we have that ready to go. And I definitely want to point out the Perkins 5 state plan that is posted on our NDE website. So there's a draft of the entire state plan here, which just kind of goes over the high-level stuff. An interesting document is this one here that says the proposed performance targets and definitions. And this is where we get into the indicators, like the 1S1, 2S1, this kind of stuff. A lot of these indicators are very similar to the old system, but there's a few that are new, and a few in the old system, I think, that got cut out. So there's nothing real super radical in most of these. 1S1 is one S1 is your 4-year grad rate. That's pretty basic. 2S1, 2, and 3, that's your proficiency in ELA, math, and science. So I don't know that science was there before. I think that's new. 3S1, post-program placement, so basically saying how many of these concentrators were placed in college or military or job a year or 6 months basically after they graduate. So 3S1 is actually lagged by a year. That's the only indicator where we have to go look back an extra year to find data. 4S1, non-traditional program based on gender, same as it used to be. And we do skip some numbers here because the feds give us options, so we skip from that to 5S3, and we will be doing that participation in work-based learning. So that's looking at those course codes that refer to work-based learning. And so our career and tech ed team is kind of looking at these and setting some proposed goals. These may actually be changing. This is definitely not set in stone yet. So goals for what each of these would be. So this report that we will be giving you is basically going to show you what your percentage is for each of these 1S1, 2S1 indicators. All right. So yeah, I know that's a lot of info, but kind of be working through it here. There's probably more communication about this has gone out to the career and tech ed people at the district at this point, so you may, if you are not that person, you may need to work with them. Any questions about this Perkins stuff? All right. Greg was bringing up a question about CRDC.
Isn't that in the CRDC section?
Well, he's talking about a discrepancy between data elements and interchange requirements.
Yeah, there definitely could be, Greg,
These are the data elements.
there could be a problem with our documentation there. Greg, if you just want to put that into a ticket email for us, we'll check it out and see if we need to update that document.
Yeah, I sure will.
Right, the advisor potential updates for 2021, I talked about these last month. Nothing's really changed here. Yeah, the CTE program will no longer be required, just like I've already said this year. We talked about changes to the FRL flag and changes to making the SPED hours and school hours no longer required under special ed programs, and we will just be giving you new setting codes instead. So, no real update there. I guess if you want to add any questions about this, and you weren't here last month, let me know. So we are looking at getting the new sandbox for next year stood up, hopefully early February. So we will plan on kind of having these changes there, as well as getting that new version of the interchange requirements and stuff ready at the time that we post the sandbox. So for now, this is our plan for changes. Otherwise, we're not planning on updating the API most likely, so really very minimal changes for 2021. Person ID, just an update. I know we've been running into some problems with some big files getting stuck and backing up the queue, so that is on my list to look at. Let's have some other stuff happening before that, but we will be working on. We haven't forgotten yet.
So may not necessarily be our file, because a lot of times I'll just upload something that might have 2 entries on it, but someone might have a file bigger than ours in the queue. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, because
And then it's kind of a combination of 2 things. One, it's running a little bit slower than I would like, and then 2, sometimes, and this happens mostly with big files, that's just where we notice it, sometimes the system actually gets stuck and we have to go, and it's just sitting there for a few hours not doing anything, and we have to go bump it along. So
yeah, it's been kind.
We'll look at fixing both of those.
Okay, I hope so, because it's been kind of a. I mean, we rely on those numbers, and have to wait for hours is kind of not so great. But thanks for looking at that.
As we've been noticing it, I've just been forcing the small files to go through, even while the big file is also running. It's just that typically we are not running multiple files at the same time, but that's also maybe something we could look at. Other than that, we've been doing a little bug fixes, no major changes to Person ID. Advisor dashboard, I talked about this last month too. That first demo version is now roughly, we're looking at February for a release, but that initial release is really does not have all of the features ready yet. So that's kind of a demo, and we are working on the plan for the second release where we'll finally catch up with everything the old dashboard has. So yeah, if you have a file, a small file, and it's taking, like it said, 90 minutes to process in Person ID, it's not actually processing. It's just in line generally. And you can actually tell by looking at the batch. It'll either say waiting to process, or it'll say processing and assigning IDs. The ones that say processing / assigning / matching, I forget what it says exactly. Those are the ones that are actually running. So most of the time, your batch is just, if you're stuck in a line, you're just sitting there in the waiting to process status. So yeah, I can help push those along if we need to, but I'm hoping that's not a routine problem in the future.
I know ours always says waiting to find matches. So it doesn't say waiting, it just says waiting to find matches.
Yep, that just means you're in line.
Okay.
Vendor updates, I don't have anything major. Power School, I just want to point out, if you didn't know, Amy posted something on the Google group about how to fix your EL students that may have been giving you that validation error number 132 about the dominant language. Yeah, it's in reference to Person ID issue. Yeah, it's not something that's typical. We just sometimes have these big files that are backing us up. So I'm hoping we can get a fix for it, and maybe probably before the end of January. But yeah, we are looking at ways to make that run smoother. I know we've got a few vendors on here. If there's anyone from EduPoint on. But if you wanted to give us an update, let us know. I believe we have some people from CIC. Any Infinite Campus updates?
Nothing too major to report, Max. Some new fixes have gone in, and some enhancements to improve the throughput through the transformer from the campus side, but nothing too major to report.
Yep. So improvements to processing speed, basically?
Yeah, to expedite.
All right. Greg, saw you were on there. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, not too much. Can you hear me, Max?
Yep.
Okay. No bug fixes pending. We're just working on the CRDC update right now and waiting for your next round of changes for 2021.
Yep. Scott was on. Yeah, Scott, do you have any updates about SRS?
Good morning. Not major updates lately. Generally, things are working. We've had a flurry of calls and tickets related to alternate assessments and the assessment submissions and rosters that are happening this week. So we're working through those. But no major updates lately. We just continue more incremental updates, fixes, and to keep improving.
When you mentioned alternate assessment, I know we're having issues with, it looks correct in SRS, but it doesn't come over to advisor as requiring an alternate assessment. So is that an SRS issue? We've tried to put in tickets, but we don't hear back.
Could I would it work for me to talk with you? Is that Cheryl?
Yes, it is.
Okay, could I talk with you after this and we'll get to the bottom of that?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep, we are almost done with the rostering. We'll be taking the data at kind of like the end of today, I think, Jill.
Today or tomorrow?
Today is eight.
Today.
Today.
Yeah.
End of day today.
All right, let's see here. Question.
I do have a question. One of the questions, this is Amy, and I apologize for the crying baby. One of the questions we've gotten is about LEP student that is supposed to be marked as a, second here, level 3. And when we look at any of the guidance, there's only references to like an L1 and an L2. So does anybody out there know what a level 3 ELL, what that would be?
Where are you seeing that?
When you look at the documentation that you guys have, there's a reference to L1 and an L2 in the different instructional options that you can provide, but there's nothing that references an L3. And I don't know, this person was just told that it needs to be listed as a level 3 ELL.
English as a second language or English language development.
Is this the monitoring level?
Or language instruction.
Amy?
What?
Where in the which element and data elements has
So
that?
we're in the LEP data elements and we're not the participation, but the instructional. What type of instruction are you providing? Language of instruction.
Gotcha.
There's the three. She could go here.
Yeah. Well, in general, yeah, we don't list what all the L1 and L2 is in the data elements.
You don't list it, you reference it in a couple of those saying, but
You
I
have a
guess
link. I have
it didn't
not-
give me any more information, at least at first glance.
Who referenced as L3? Amy?
I was curious what this link tells me.
It describes those things.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it was a SPED director at Conestoga. She's the student services director, so SPED and LEP director.
Okay.
Said, please mark this student as a level 3 ELL.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with these terms.
I can open up a ticket, but I just didn't know if other people were running into that same issue or not, so I thought I'd bring it up here.
But yeah, or we can take it to our English learner expert. And she can
Understand.
know about those.
Do you have her info, Amy, or do you want me to send it to you? Or
If you want to send it to me, that's fine.
Okay, I'll send
I
you an
don't-
email.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, question about auto rostering done to maps from advisor. TestWiz is doing auto rostering if you have that turned on, and I think most districts do. I'm not sure exactly that is the maps roster that they are filling.
To my knowledge, for most districts, it is. But districts can also manually continue the upload. Lots of confusion out there about the map rostering.
I know we're using Clever to upload to NWEA for MAP. So I don't know if other districts do that.
There are some other districts that do that as well.
However, I do not know if that is different for someone in the map growth pilot group. Maybe they do have to upload rosters manually. I could not tell you, but is anyone else in the map growth pilot, or has anyone else had emails saying that they were missing their map roster? All right. I believe that was everything I had on the agenda today. Anyone else have something they want to ask or share? All right, I take that as the no. Next meeting is February 12th. Oh, Greg, JMC map roster, does that upload directly to a map system, or does that create a file to upload?
Currently, it creates a file for upload, a CSV file.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks for joining, everyone. We will talk to you next month.
Thank you, Max.